welcome to Honest Car Reviews. My name is Eric and this is an extremely important new car that I will review. The brand new Toyota GR86. When cars are getting heavier, more complex, turbocharged, four-wheel drive, this is rear-wheel drive, naturally aspirated, lightweight, simple and manual. The GR86 had a really high bar set for it from the get-go, but there were a few important changes that Toyota needed to absolutely nail down to make this into an actual improvement of a car. That was namely the engine. The previous GT86 had a 2-liter boxer engine and it had a pretty big torque gap. And how has Toyota fixed this? Well, bigger, with a bigger bore size. The intake has been changed, the exhaust side has been changed, the catalytic converter, the cylinder housing, the viscosity of the oil, and the power has been increased to 234 horsepower and 250 newton-meters of torque. Peak power is reached at about 7,000 RPM, peak torque at 3,700 RPM. Underneath, they're still working on the chassis of the GT86, but basically every single part has been retweaked. Of course, you can see from the exterior, the front bonnet here is much more aggressive. The previous GT86 was just boyish racer look. This is more mature, but it looks more like a proper sports car. The car weighs at 1,400 kilograms, and of course you want to have the manual 6-speed. An automatic 6-speed is also available, but trust me, go with the manual. This is right now on winter tires, but the summer tires are Michelin Pilot Sport Forest tires. 215 in the front, 215 in the rear, squarish setup. 270mm brake disc in front, 200mm brake disc in the rear. 2-pot caliper in the front, 1-pot in the rear. Side skirts here are aluminium, so is the roof, and so is the rear tailgate. The center of gravity has been lowered by over 1mm, which, when you think about it, already so low the car, a real feat. 0 to 100 km/h is done at just over 6 seconds. McPherson strut in the front, double wishbone in the rear. The Mazda MX-5 has double wishbone both front and rear, which is more advantageous. But with that bigger engine in the front, which is flat and wide, you have to make some sacrifices. Over 200 liters of storage, goes very far in, and you can even fold down the rear seats, which make this actually quite usable. You really slide down into the car, and yeah, it is dirty, but the winter is just letting go of its power here in Sweden, and we have a lot of gravel around. Impossible to keep clean. 3 pedals under your feet, manual handbrake, manual gear shift, and let me start the car. The GR logo with a unique starting sequence, digital gauge cluster, a new infotainment system, and a new interior in general. This is obviously third party. You could buy this from Amazon, from whatever place, put it yourself, and that would be this infotainment system. You don't have any navigation, but you can pair it with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and I guess that will be how the majority of people will use it. Still, manual controls for the AC, switch up and switch down. Really nice tactile feedback on the buttons. The glove box is for some reason 25% bigger. The steering wheel, very thin, very simple. Manual controls here as well. Controls for your volume. On the right you control this left side view. So temperature of the oil, your volts, your fuel consumption, which I'll get to when we start driving, your G meter, sound, some settings. One bad thing that I have about this steering wheel is that I have too little control over how far the steering wheel goes towards me. It is just too far away from my arms, which means I have to sit quite angled up to reach it, and that's not super comfortable for my pretty long legs. Here's the controls for the sport mode, and the whole digital gauge cluster changes. I have very simple dials for the temperature of the oil and the coolant in the engine. And you can turn the traction control completely off without going into track mode with the TRC off. The seat, very firm, but you do have lumbar support, and the seat is not squishing me on the sides. I have a lot of side support without feeling claustrophobic. And that is all about the interior. Now it's time to start driving this car. 6th gear, 70 kilometers an hour. We're just under 2000 RPM, which means that on over 100 kilometers an hour, 110, the car revs fairly high. And there's quite a lot of road noise going into the car as well. The boxer engine, especially at low RPM, sounds like a lawnmower. The clutch pedal, really easy to read when it starts to engage, but the gear shift, very, works really good up in the revs when you're driving a bit quicker, but I feel it's quite notchy in general. It's something you have to get used to. Set the gear you want to be in, set the speed, and that's it. No active cruise control. But you have active cruise control in the GR Yaris for some reason. Why can't you have it here? Of course, the things I mentioned makes it a bit of a worse daily user. Fuel consumption on highway around 100 is around 0.75 liters per 10 kilometer, which I feel is decent for a car of this type. I forgot to mention that the car has a limited slip differential, torsion, and it pipes in sound into the cabin. The speaker is underneath the dash, but the engine sounds much better up in the rev range. I mean, peak power is at 7,000. My response here will be quite unfiltered, so if I will make sounds, you'll just have to live with it. Oh, so beautifully balanced. Just chuck it in here, even on winter tires. The steering sensitivity, the steering rack is just set up beautifully. The brakes, they grab early, but super easy to modulate. Going out of the corner, pushing down the throttle, feeling just that little minute of slip from the tires, being able to modulate that so easily in a naturally aspirated car. I'm just loving every second that I'm spending with this car on a B-road or whatever you are driving this car on. It is definitely a driver's car. The driving aids are far and few in between, but all the better for it. The GR Yaris, the GR86, the GR Supra, and Toyota is offering all of this. We are in the golden age, and in the same time the dark age. The cars are getting more muted, less analog. This is as analog as you will be able to have a car in this day and age. I would not have the even close amount of fun and driving pleasure in a 500, 600 four-wheel driven monster compared to this. It's as simple as that. Toyota has made one of the best sports car on the market with the new GR86. The changes to make this more mature has made it not only sportier, faster, but also more fun to play with. The more torque really helps in daily driving, when passing, and I don't have to wring the car out every time that I want to have fun. The price though, in Sweden it starts at just over 400,000 Swedish kroner, and with the currency change it's about 37,000 euro. That is quite expensive, which will probably make you look at a second-hand Porsche Boxster or something completely different in terms of Honda Civic Type R or something. But when you look at simple, pure driving fun in a completely brand new car, Toyota has made it possible to have this type of performance, this type of driving pleasure at a reasonably attainable price. And on a final note, just we should cherish the GR86 for what it is and for what it shows. It is the antidote, and showing us that there is an antidote. And with only 2 years with the GR86, you need to get one right now. And I think that's the best compliment that I can give any car. And with that note, that's my conclusion as well. See you next time.